Football Talks is live. This is the paper round, everybody. How are you doing? I hope you are fantastic and ready for your Sunday. I'm going to kickstart it with all of the papers. So no need to go out. No need to go and buy the paper. We've got it all covered here. We've got all of the hot topics from the Sunday papers. Everything that you need to know. And we're going to discuss it here live. So get your comments in, everybody, please, on this. We are starting, of course. We've got plenty of stories. ISAK'S new contract at Newcastle. The Geordies trying to fend off any suitors or anybody coming in with new deals. It's supposed to be massive, in fact, a little bit extra on top. I mean, this is a worry, obviously, for a lot of football clubs because ISAK, one of the targets that is going to be, I think, looked at by most clubs going into the summer. So what's that going to mean for everyone else and their possible targets? Are other clubs going to go for their other targets now and all of that? We'll talk about that in a minute. But we are starting today, of course, with the man himself again. He cannot stay out of the headlines, but this time I think there were a few people actually behind Mikel Arteta. What was going on with that refereeing call yesterday? Now, I looked at it a certain way while we was live yesterday, but all of the papers today are going in on this big time. Was that the right call to make? Mikel Arteta, nonsense call, basically. We've got a poll running in the chat right away, so get involved in that, everybody. Was the red card in the Arsenal game the correct decision? Now, obviously, we've got the Nuno Mendes one as well. Not Nuno Mendes, sorry, Nuno Gomez. He got red carded for Wolves later on. But we're talking about the Arsenal red card, and the headlines are everywhere. Absolutely all over the place. I'm just going to read you a section out of the paper here. First off, I think this is the Sun's take on this one. Seeing red, Premier League release statement on nonsensical Miles Lewis Skelly red card versus Wolves with Arsenal fans left fuming. The headline reads, Arsenal players have been left fuming and fans have slammed the worst decision ever after Miles Lewis Skelly was surprisingly sent off. The 18-year-old was given a red card for a foul on Wolves star Matt Doherty after 43 minutes. To be honest, I'll read into the story a bit more. I think they're going to make it quite clear why this is headlines right now. The host had just defended a gunner's corner when they looked to break away on the counter-attack. Doherty sprinted away with the ball and was 90 yards from the Arsenal goal when he was clinically tripped by Lewis Skelly. Most expected a yellow card to be given, but he was instead given a red card by referee Michael Oliver. This is where we're actually at. This is the problem that we've got with this, because he was 90 yards away from goal. Now, the paper straight away there talks to you about a trip. I don't think it was necessarily a trip. I think it was more. I think he went studs down his leg, and I think that is why this one is actually debatable. I think this is why everything that's being debated right now, everything that everybody's saying is... not so much wrong, blown up or anything like that. I just think it's in the headlines because he went down with his studs. I think that was it. I thought it was like a case of 2 yellow cards. I mean, Mikel Arteta, as I did say on all of this, on Lewis Skelly's red card, I think it's obvious. We don't need any comments today, and hopefully the right thing will happen after today. On whether he had an explanation for the sending off, he replied no. On if the club will appeal the red card, hopefully we don't need to. And if we have to, it happened, and it's really good. It's really good precedent for what happened with Bruno Fernandes as well this season. Okay, we were in position that we shouldn't be in, but at least be in a position we should be in for the next few weeks and allow our players to continue to show up. Basically saying, look, Lewis Skelly should be available for selection in the next few weeks. And what you've got to look at there is he's gone back to Bruno Fernandes in the Tottenham incident, how that was rescinded and brought back. I think with all of the noise and everything that's going on around this red card for Lewis Skelly, I feel like it is going to get rescinded because of the pile-on. And it has been a massive pile-on. Mikel Arteta can take the high road there a little bit, can't he, with that? I think he can look at that and say, look, I don't need to really go into it. Nothing needs to be said. Everybody can see it. I guarantee you if Arsenal didn't get the win yesterday, Mikel Arteta would have been doing his nut. He would have been going absolutely mental at this decision. I think he would have been looking in trouble himself. Going off Arteta's history, going off what he's actually been like before when decisions haven't gone his way, I think you were looking at Mikel Arteta here in a sort of got away with it a little bit. He probably knew, looking back on it, after the result and the win, that he didn't need to go in full steam in that interview or in that press conference. Arsenal will get that red card rescinded, I'm pretty certain. But the debate will rumble on. And again, the referees, the PGMOL, top topic, everybody talking about them constantly. It's always a refereeing decision every single weekend that's in the back pages. It's always taking the headlines. It's getting ridiculous right now. It really is. We had the debacle as Manchester United fans with Madley in that game against Arsenal. Everybody came out and was absolutely gobsmacked by some of the decisions in that game. I don't know what is happening. I don't know what's going on with the referees right now. There is this aura about them. They feel like they've got this aura. They feel like they've got this protective bubble around them, I think, where they could walk into a situation, talk to players and talk down to players. I know they get probably a load of abuse and everything like that in games, and it's a tough job, it really is, but they seem to walk around arrogantly on the pitch at the moment and feel like they can do everything. That may be just me and just my look on it, but they just seem to have this sort of attitude which isn't helping things, is what I would say more than anything. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to help them going forward. Right now, I think they're a laughingstock, the referees in this country. I really do. I think they are right up against it now because of what they have done. I think they bottle out of decisions. Once they make a big decision, it's pointless VAR even being there because they don't overturn a referee's decision on the pitch. They never have done. The only ones that ever get overturned are the ones that they haven't made. So if the ref's on-field call, and this so-called keeping it to the on-field call sort of side of things, it's like, well, surely, if these are the rules, you should be looking at this properly and saying whether or not this should be a red card. If the ref has given a decision, it doesn't automatically mean that you have got that decision right. And then you go back to VAR and that. But it's the most annoying thing in all of this is, I think, that they don't ever turn a referee's decision around. They don't ever go back from what the ref's made on the pitch and say that that was wrong. The ref never gets it wrong. Well, maybe in this case, it's proven that he has got it wrong. And what does that tell you about the people at Stockley Park? If they've looked at that and said that that's not worth overturning, and it isn't a red card, it's a yellow card, because that's an easy one to do. He may have seen that, and he could have got away with it, Oliver, yesterday, and said, look, I thought I seen studs going down. Looking back on this, maybe it wasn't full force or anything like that. 90 yards away from goal, you would usually get away with a yellow card on that situation. You would, because a worse tackle went in for the second yellow for Gomez yesterday, and I think that was the point that you would bring back in this game and go, what was worse? Neither of them, and they were both yellow cards. Because they were both studs, and when I look back on it, I thought it was a red card yesterday because of the tackle. But when I think about it more, maybe that was with my sort of getting carried away with it, game modes, Arsenal sort of look on things from a United side of thing. But when you look at Gomez's second yellow card, he got a yellow for that and then was sent off. I thought his tackle was worse than Lewis Skelly's. So that really pretty much sums it up. I actually do feel like that will get overturned. Arteta will get away with it. He will have him back in his squad, and Arsenal will move forward, being able to select him. Thank you for the gifted membership, the Angry Beaver. For some reason, I cannot see who actually receives the memberships at the moment. It's really, really annoying. Sorry about that. So if you did receive the membership and it has come up, please let us know in the chat as well, everybody. Hi Adam, couldn't agree more about the referees in the Premier League. How many other sports can we say the same about officials being on the back pages? That's a good point, Mr. Dacia Sandero. Ricky says Arteta is a professional victim. Arteta, Rashford and Ryan Giggs' brother all have a WhatsApp group called It's Not Fair. I ain't listening to Arteta. He can't talk without pausing for full stops. He's like a robot. he does do a lot of bitching, a lot of moaning, Arteta, in the media, in press conferences. I think that comes across on the pitch. What I didn't like yesterday was the Arsenal players' reaction to the Gomez sending off. That was bad. That was bad. I thought just the celebrations from the likes of Gabriel when he was sent off, it was just like, yes, we're level again. It's just not right. And I think that comes from the sidelines. I think that comes from Arteta. He moans and calls out absolutely everything. Throw-ins. He was booked because he didn't get a throw-in the other day in a game at the Emirates. I mean, that's ridiculous. How do you get booked for not winning a throw-in? Like, calm down. And I think that comes across on the pitch with all the Arsenal players because they do surround the referee. They do go for, I think, more than any other team. And I think that's why they've got the reputation that they have. But in this case, if we're just talking about this yellow card for Lewis Skelly, I do believe that Arsenal will get away with it. Skelly will be available. I think it will get rescinded. And I think we will move on from there. I think it's obvious with everything that's going on. Jeffrey in the chat says, Adam, for me, refereeing went downhill when they stopped shaking hands and started giving fists. Yeah. Welcome to the Members Club block N4210. I love that, mate. Double membership for you, my friend, on Football Talks and FUTV now. Thank you. Please give the video a like, everybody. Let's see if we can get 100 likes on this video. We're going to get into all of the other stuff that is going on in the papers as well. Did you see the debutantes yesterday for Manchester City? Cussing off with that mistake early doors. Oh, I tell you. Right. Let's get into everything else that's going on as well in the papers. And the big story going around is of Alexander Isak and that new deal. Is anybody going to be able to get Isak away from Newcastle? That's the story this morning, because Arsenal are interested, other clubs around Europe are interested in him. It has been the talk of the town in Newcastle. Do Newcastle need to sell Alexander Isak to make money and balance their books for PSR so they can reinvest? Isak is probably worth 100 million right now. That's a lot of money. That's an awful lot of money. Newcastle intend to reward Alexander Isak with a new long-term contract in the summer after another brilliant season. They remain adamant the striker is not for sale. That's come from The Telegraph and Luke Edwards of The Telegraph, up there, North East correspondent, saying that Newcastle now are going to give Alexander Isak that new deal. What is Isak worth? That's what I want to ask in the chat. In terms of Isak then not being for sale, it kind of then narrows the gap for everybody else in the market for strikers. When you look at the strikers that are possibly available this summer, Isak was one of them. You're looking at Victor Osimhen. He was one of them as well. Gyökeres. You've got Šeško. Everybody looking for these strikers. Everybody looking for everything that's going on that can improve their team going into the summer. All of the big moves are always in the summer for strikers. I mean, you'll get the odd one. You'll get the odd one which jumps out and says, wow, January deal. Didn't see that one happening. I just can't see it. I just cannot see it this time. And I just feel like it's going to be, for me, I think it's going to be one of the biggest summers ever for strikers when it comes to people moving on. And I just look at Isak and I go, he is probably right now, pound for pound, like probably the most expensive striker out there. I think if anybody was going to get Isak, I think they would spend more money on him than any other striker that's available. And all of the names that I just mentioned there, I think he is the most valuable striker on the market right now. And I only say that because of Haaland signing that crazy new contract at Man City. And we all know that he isn't going to go anywhere. We all know that he isn't going to be sold by Manchester City ever. So when you look at that, you've just got to say, well, let's be honest, Isak is the most expensive. I don't think there is anyone else out there. There isn't. So, yeah. And I feel like when you just look at the mirror right now with Isak as well and the story coming out from there, Newcastle set date for Alexander Isak contract talks amid Arsenal transfer interest. Newcastle are planning to resurrect contract talks with Alexander Isak in the summer, indicating that Arsenal's hopes of landing the sought-after Swedish striker are slim. The 25-year-old has been heavily linked with Arsenal in recent months in the wake of his fine form for Eddie Howe's side, who are once again in contention to qualify for next season's Champions League. You move across to the story next to it, and Benjamin Sesko makes decision after Gunners open talks with Wonderkid. I don't think, personally, anybody's got the money to buy Alexander Isak. Like I said before, I think he is the hottest property out there right now, and I think he ranks up there with one of the best strikers in European football. And doing it in the Premier League is probably why Isak is going to be the best and probably the most expensive purchase this summer for anybody. I don't think it'll happen. I don't. There's a lot to do in this, I think, with with everything on what's happening with Manchester City's case in the Premier League as well. I've said this before. I think the Saudi ownership at Newcastle, if the decision doesn't go the Premier League's way with Manchester City and all of their charges, I think they will be testing the waters themselves soon enough and saying, we're not going to sit back and let them do everything that they want to do and take the league for a ride if it does look like it is actually going to go down that road in terms of everything going in City's favour in these cases and what's going on. I just look at it and I think the Saudis will actually come to a point and say, look, we're just going to do it ourselves. We're going to do it our way. And this is what this will force into the Premier League. And certain decisions will be made. You've just got to look at it and say, right now, if that case goes in favour of Manchester City, it's going to open up the transfer window even more. And stupid amounts of money with these super rich owners is just going to start being spent everywhere. But when it comes to Isak, I think he is that good. Newcastle would be absolutely insane if they tried to sell him. I don't think Newcastle could replace Isak, is what I'm saying. In the understanding of what he's got with that team, what Eddie Howe wants, and maybe the time integrating him into Newcastle or another player into Newcastle instead of Isak if they sold him, I think he's absolute mustard. I think he is the best out there right now. Every club in the Premier League will get punished for overspending apart from Manchester City. Look at it this way. Newcastle are pricing him at 150 million. He's easily worth 100 million, Alexander Isak, into 100% easily worth 100 million. And when you look at everybody else, excuse me, out there right now, Gyökeres, 58 million clause on him. We're talking Sesko and Arsenal there that they could go. They could go in for him. How much is he going to cost at RB Leipzig? All of that. And you only have to look at. That situation and what Gyökeres has done in putting a clause into his contract. That's the only way you're going to get anybody out of any football club of that sort of that quality. And Newcastle's situation, I think they will be putting clauses into Isak's contract as well. What they can afford to pay him, I don't know. But yeah, in terms of what's happening with the Premier League and transfers and how busy this window is going to be in the last week, obviously we're going to be keeping all over it on Football Talks as well, but expect business to be done by Wolves. What happens with Cunha? Nottingham Forest yesterday, where did that result come from? 5-0 against Bournemouth. Bournemouth are absolutely destroying it at the moment. Absolutely destroying it. So I think Wolves will be busy. I think Nottingham Forest will be busy. They obviously want to strengthen their spot in that top 4 chase. So I think it's going to be a case of, and the story about what is happening with Matheus Cunha, a 60 million bid going in from Nottingham Forest. That I think is showing you exactly where ownership models are at right now. When I talk about the spending and when I talk about everything that's going to be happening in the Premier League, you only have to look at them reports. Forest buying Cunha, is that the ownership there taking a risk? Taking a calculated risk? Are they confident that they can stay in the top 4? I mean, after that result yesterday, I wouldn't be that confident. Obviously, they're still in there right now, but you've got other teams now closing the gap. Manchester City back into the top 4 after their win against Chelsea last night. Chelsea obviously still tinkering around. Newcastle in the fight as well, trying to come in the form that they're in. If Forest do spend this money on Matheus Cunha, and then they don't get into the Champions League, are they then going to be running the risk of PSR again? This is the risk that I'm talking about that ownerships will actually go to now. Owners now banking on teams getting into the Champions League. And then if City do win the case, then it's all going to come back to it being discussed and said, well, look, we'll just fight it out in the courts like City did then. We'll just say this. I think that clubs will start finding more loopholes, and it will be a different market altogether. It's just going to add more and more complications to it. But what do we think of Bournemouth at the moment, by the way? What an outstanding victory that was. Like Newcastle last week, 4-1 away from home. And then yesterday, Nottingham Forest, 5-0. Forest, one of the best defences in the league, one of the best partnerships at centre-back with Milenkovic and Morello. Everybody praising Nottingham Forest. And Bournemouth has gone in there and absolutely steamrolled Forest. Like, they do not care at the moment, Bournemouth. They are an absolute joy to watch. They are brilliant. Anybody who is joining the membership club, thank you so much. Cheers, everybody, for the likes. Let's get as many likes in as we possibly can, please, everybody. Just creeping up to nearly 300 in the room. Thank you, everybody. Let's get into some of your comments on them stories as well. Agreed, Adam. If City get away with it, I hope other clubs just take advantage. United will be left behind. No, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got money to spend. I'm sure this would actually benefit him in a way as well. If he wanted to put his money in, then I expect United to be doing a lot more as well. But there are new PSR rules coming in, don't forget, next year as well, into next season, which is squad ratio rule, which will definitely benefit the likes of United and Manchester City, Liverpool. It won't benefit Newcastle again. And this is where I think the ownership model there will definitely start looking into taking things into their own hands a little bit. And it's a difficult situation, but I think the Premier League have to be very, very careful with what they do and how they handle this and what happens with Manchester City. Hard working class couple, hope your channel grows. Thank you, Ewan, love that. There are so few good strikers about that Isak will be unsellable. Irreplaceable for Newcastle, says Andrew. He is the best out there right now. I think he is a better striker than Haaland. I'll go as far as saying that. All around, I think he's better. I really do. I think his finishing is just as good. I think in the air, he's outstanding. I think his speed, his control, I think he's a brilliant striker. And any team in the world would take Alexander Isak right now. Any team in the world. I think he's right up there. Definitely. Where would you rank Isak in terms of the Premier League? That's the point, actually. Well, let's just look at the Premier League for now. Where does Isak rank? And there's some good strikers in this league. Some very good strikers. Where does he rank in the Premier League right now? Get into the comments on that one. In terms of today's content, I will be back early afternoon. I'll keep you all updated in terms of FUTV and the warm-up show. I'll be back early afternoon with the warm-up, and then we're obviously going to be doing the watch-along later on this evening for the game, and we'll be back after the game again with the breakdown show. Me and Jay breaking everything down from what happened in the Fulham game. So a busy, busy day, everybody. So make sure that you're tuned in. Your bell notifications are on on Football Talks that we're on now, and on FUTV as well. Thank you for supporting on both channels, everybody. Let's get into some more. I don't want any United players on a 7-8 year or 7-8 or 9 year contract, says Tom. It's strange, that one. Be interesting to see if Newcastle go down the road of what City have and Chelsea have. Are they going to start being clever? Is Isak going to be one of the next players to be on one of them bumper contracts? That's the interesting one. That is the interesting one. We'll see on that. Let's get through some more comments here. Just so you all know, and for those who like to break records, 141 is the light record. You can try. Go for it, everybody. You can try. In terms of other big results yesterday, Everton away at Brighton. David Moyes has literally just turned Everton back around. Just like that. Back-to-back wins for Everton has just moved them completely away from the relegation zone. And David Moyes already having an effect at Everton, which I think some people expected, some people didn't think much of it. And yeah, when you look at what he's done there, and David Moyes has come out as well after that game talking about his transfer situation and everything. David Moyes has admitted that Everton's injury issues could force their hand in the transfer market. Speaking after yesterday's win against Brighton, he said they, Mangala and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, don't look great, either of them. The medical team have told me to let you know that they'll get assessed first, then we'll make a decision, but they're not the best, either of them at the moment. I think it does affect transfer plans. I feel as if, depending on what comes back from their assessment, I'll decide a little bit more on whether we're having to do something with which we may have to do from what I have seen. So David Moyes, after the game yesterday, coming out and saying Everton may get busy in the transfer market. Look, when you look at what he's done instantly there, what Everton now needs going into that new stadium. Everton, another club that have literally just gone down the line with PSR. I think that there is, again, a sign that moving into a new stadium, the importance of still being in the Premier League, they have to take calculated risks. Teams are having to do it, and they're being pushed to the limits in everything right now. They're being pushed to the absolute max when it comes to their finances, and they're having to go above and beyond. And it was said that no team actually fell below the PSR threshold earlier on this month for the last year's figures. So that was 23, 24. 24, 25, maybe a different story for a few clubs, but the amount of teams that were literally on the line, I think, is where it should be. I think everyone should be looking at that and making a big deal out of that, because there are clubs that are going to end up being forced. Like the amount of games that you're having to play, the amount of squad issues that clubs are having right now. Teams and football clubs are going to be forced into the market. Like David Moyes says there, he's just got back-to-back wins, but he's losing his players. There's too many games in a season for these players to get through. And these rules and PSR rules are going to break clubs. They're absolutely going to break clubs, because then if it doesn't work out and they take them risk and then they get the point deductions, then you're going to be opening up a whole world. I think when the case comes out with City, everything's out in the open. I think the whole structure of PSR and everything will change, because clubs are really struggling to survive. Just going to run through some more stories as well. Just going back to the Alexander Isak one and Arsenal's pursuit of him, it looks like they have completely moved away from it, and it is all about Benjamin Sesko now for Arsenal. One of the players that Arsenal could be targeting heading into the final days of the window is RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko. We talked about him actually last week, and them trying to get a deal done in January. Now, this would cost a lot of money if they was to get it done. He is seen as a potential addition to that the Gunners are screaming out for in attack, and it appears that a deal could happen. TalkSport saying he has already picked a move to the Emirates. Leipzig are understandably not keen to sell, with only a crazy offer enough to convince them to cash in on the forward. So, the Leipzig striker has chosen Arsenal one way or another, whether it be in January this month or in the summer. It looks like Sesko will be making the move to the Emirates, and Arsenal fans can get excited about that, because that would be Zubimendi moving in and Sesko in the summer. That's a strong transfer window before it's even got started. Let's get some more. Moyes to finish higher than United. Don't say that, Block. Please don't say that. Everyone else saying the same thing there as well. How many points will Everton be deducted for City's 115 charges? Should United sign Dorgu, says Simon. All of the talk about Dorgu and everything going on is United are looking to put another bid in. At the moment, the latest is they are discussing whether or not to go in with another bid. That's where we're at the moment. So realistically, I don't know. We talked about Alvaro Fernandez and what's happening there. Obviously, we've gone into detail in the FU TV show this morning, but the Barcelona stuff as well. According to reports in Spain, this has come from the Mirror this morning as well. The forward is willing to make a pay cut to move to the new camp. I talked about that yesterday. Mirror Slow Sports News going on. Barcelona are currently struggling to put together the finances to sign him. The Spanish giants would still require United to pay at least half of his wages for a deal to be agreed. Yeah, and then on the Dorgu situation as well, Manchester United have received an encouragement in their efforts to sign Lecce star Dorgu. Lecce manager Marco Giampola said top European clubs want him, so it's normal to be affected at some point, but he's very mature and a serious guy. I don't think transfer news are going to create any issues this week. He's been working very well. Meanwhile, Lecce have reportedly launched a bid for Hearts fullback Daniel Oigoke, I think it says, how you pronounce it, as a potential replacement. So, yeah, I feel like that deal, I'm 70% that would go. 70% that would actually happen. And I don't know, with the Alvaro news just hovering in the background, I think that could actually come off as well. It's going to be a crazy week. I don't even want to try and predict what is going to happen for the rest of this transfer window right now. It is a very, very strange one. And I think it is going to get busy. Just there as well, Dusan Vlahovic sent brutal reality check as Arsenal urged to weigh up a move. Lots of clubs, I think, going to be pushing for a lot of players. Eddie Nketiah told things can only get better after 30 million Arsenal transfer. That being into the games today. There's lots of paper talk about what's actually happening today. Manchester United are at Fulham going nuts. Bruno Fernandes calls on Man United teammates to show more balls and says he agrees on Amorim's worst side ever. Well, what Bruno Fernandes said was, when the manager talked about the worst side ever, I think he's alluding to where Manchester United are in the league. In the Premier League, it is. The Premier League era is the worst side ever. And he said he doesn't think, and Bruno's been doing this history by the sounds of it, it doesn't look, he doesn't think that we're a million miles away from actually being the worst side ever. And that, and that I think is where Ruben Amorim was trying to cut back and come back on what he said after the game against Brighton, because he did it in his press conference this week ahead of the Rangers game. Obviously, he was talking about and trying to explain what he meant. Bruno is back with it, but Bruno does say that these United players need to show some more balls. He said, boss Ruben Amorim caused a storm last week when he branded Manchester United's fall guys the worst side in the club's history. Bruno Fernandes comes back. Ruben Amorim came back and said he later admitted he went too far, yet Fernandes reckons he was bang on. And the Red Devils skipper said, the reality is, to play here, you have to have the pressure. You have to have the balls to play for this club. That is what it is. Bang on the money. We know this. Every United fan knows this. You have to feel that in every moment, in every game, it is a new chance for us to bring us back to the position we deserve. Unfortunately, for us, this season, there have been too many ups and downs, and every time we look like getting there, we get punched again and go down. Well, that is on the players, like Bruno said. It's as simple as that. There is nothing else that he could say there, really, that's going to convince any Manchester United fan. All of that talk is fine. It's all what happens on the pitch. And that's the same for every football club. I think there's a lot of talking, and there is a lot of talk in the Premier League right now, but there are definitely underperforming teams. Ange Postecoglou today, you look at that situation right now, and the papers are all full of that. Is this the day that Ange Postecoglou gets sacked? What about Ruud van Nistelrooy? Ruud van Nistelrooy right now is absolutely cemented to that second to bottom spot in the league table. Cannot buy a win. Is that El Sacco today at Spurs? It's another question. Who do you think will go first? Ruud van Nistelrooy or Ange Postecoglou? You cannot be sacking Ruud, surely, can you? But then, stranger things have happened. I didn't think Cooper was doing a bad job at Leicester. Ruud's come in, hasn't really got change out of Leicester at all. It just goes to show, like, changing managers isn't always the answer. I look at Ange Postecoglou and I think that is the next manager to go, personally. I think if Liverpool beat them in the second leg of the Carabao Cup, then that will be it. That will be Ange bye-bye, I feel. I don't know if Van Nistelrooy will see out the season at Leicester. It's my honest opinion again. But underperforming sides, you look, and I said this before, this is where teams with PSR, with the need to buy players, look at this injury situation at Spurs right now. And you can blame Ange Postecoglou for his style of play. There's lots of people and there's lots of articles about it, not just in today's papers, but his style of play. This is why these players are getting so many muscle injuries. You look at Van de Ven, for instance, constant muscle injuries because of the way that Ange plays. Or is it too many games? Spurs are in the Europa League. Spurs are in the FA Cup. Spurs are in the Carabao Cup. They've played the maximum amount of games that they could play already this season. They've lost all of the centre-backs. They've lost Solanke for another 6 weeks right now. Do Spurs take the risk and go out into the transfer market and spend more on what they can? This is the pressure that I'm talking about when it comes to the clubs and what's happening, what they have to do to try and balance their season in terms of squad depth. You are introducing younger players too early and it's ruining their chances of developing properly because you've got no one else left in your squad. It's not fair on them. You're having to spend more money because nobody wants to sell anybody in January because of the same situation. And then you're offering more money, then you're going into more financial difficulties. What is the bigger problem? PSR or the actual fixture lists? It's all going to come to a head, I think, and the whole structure of it all needs to change and change very, very quickly. That is your paper roundup, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for the great comments in there as well. Any new members that have jumped in, we've got 2 new members on the show alone just today. Thank you for all of your comments, everybody, on FUTV and on Football Talks. Brilliant show again. We'll be back next Sunday with a paper round. Stay tuned. Make sure you have subscribed and got your bell notification on Football Talks so you know of all of the content coming up. Let us know your ideas as well. Please get in the comments section and let me know what you think is the content that you'd like to watch more of as well on Football Talks. Is it the watch-alongs? Is it the special shows, the videos, the live streams? Talk to me, everybody. Let me know what you think. Thank you again for all of your participation, and I will see you all later on. Don't forget, around early afternoon, FUTV, we'll be back with the warm-up show, so make sure you tuned in for that one, everybody. Thanks again. I will see you all later on. Have a great Sunday, everyone.